Hey everybody, Matty here with Altcoin Buzz. Happy Thursday. Another nice day for the markets. The total market cap up 1.8% today, $513.5 billion. So again, that's over the $500 billion mark. Not too bad. Bitcoin, as I record right now, over 18,000, just barely, but it still counts. And we're looking at a 65.4% dominance with a little bit bleeding over into some of the altcoins, notably Litecoin here in the top 10, sitting comfortably now at number 6, up 11.9% on the day. In this video, we're going to take a look at two major macro level trends right now that are fueling this market growth. One of which is the fact that banks and a lot of financial institutions are openly coming out and lending support, if not to cryptocurrency, at least to Bitcoin. You have a couple of major banks right now that have made public statements in addition to what's happened earlier in the week with Citibank and whatnot. So that's trend number one. Trend number two is increasing activity, altcoin projects. There are a lot of great updates that we're going to alert you guys to. But once all the dust with Bitcoin tends to settle down, we are going to ultimately see an altcoin boom, and we'll give you a quantified argument as to when we think that'll occur. Beginning with that first trend here, we have Michael Saylor commenting on Deutsche Bank news, at Michael_Saylor, of course, of MicroStrategy. For thousands of years, we crossed oceans in wooden ships and stored value in golden coins. Well, with the invention of steel, wooden ships became ornamental yachts, and with the invention of Bitcoin, golden coins will become ornamental jewelry. And he's referring to this major news here on Coindesk.com. Deutsche Bank says investors increasingly prefer Bitcoin over gold as inflation hedge. Of course, we're talking about Deutsche Bank out of Germany. So Bitcoin's appeal as an alternative store of value asset is strengthening. This is according to analysts at Germany-based investment bank Deutsche Bank. And guys, look, this resonates perfectly with news that we saw earlier in the week out of Citibank, whose managing directors, at least privately, is pushing Bitcoin, is suggesting that it could hit $318,000 by December of 2021. Again, not disclosing any of this publicly, but privately in an institutional email to major bigwig clients. Well, now Deutsche Bank seems to be joining the ranks. Quote, there seems to be an increasing demand to use Bitcoin where gold used to be used to hedge dollar risk, inflation, and other similar things, courtesy of Jim Reed here, the managing director, head of global fundamental credit strategy for Deutsche Bank. And of course, as we know, gold did okay this year. It is up 22%, but it's nothing compared to Bitcoin, which is up 144% in 2020. Both assets seem to have benefited from the inflation-boosting monetary and fiscal policies launched by central banks and governments across the globe to contain the economic fallout of the COVID-19 pandemic. Unfortunately, I guess mostly unfortunately, I won't say fortunately, depends on your outlook, I suppose, but I don't think that so-called inflation-boosting monetary and fiscal set of policies is going to change anytime soon. I think all of these problems that we're facing are only going to be exacerbated, and so these trends that you're seeing in Bitcoin and to a lesser extent in gold, I think are going to be very much staying with us in the months and years ahead. And we also have this news out of China here on altcoinbuzz.io. Bank in China uses blockchain to sell $3 billion in debt. And this is, I wouldn't call it a pilot project, but it's certainly something that was intended to be high visibility. So maybe even more of a social experiment, you could argue. They're not saying that outright. Of course, they never will. But if you kind of read between the lines, I think that's what they're trying to do here. That is my contention, at least. This article by David. So the world's second largest bank, again, the second largest bank in the world, they're turning to Bitcoin and blockchain technology to raise capital. So according to the South China Morning Post, China Construction Bank, the world's, again, second biggest bank, they've partnered with Fusang, which is a Hong Kong-based company, and the goal is to eventually sell a total of $3 billion in debt via blockchain technology. The debt will be made available through several tranches in the form of digital certificates, and the first one was worth $58 million. The base value of the certificates is as low as $100 with a maturity rate of 0.75%. This is higher than the average yearly 0.25% interest standard. Henry Chong is the CEO of Fusang Exchange, and he had the following to say, quote, we think this is the perfect showcase for how digital securities can power financial inclusion by combining the exciting advancements in blockchain tech with the tokenization of traditional securities. We believe that this will be the start of Crypto 2.0, the true institutionalization of digital asset products. Here is the original reporting courtesy of the South China Morning Post. China Construction Bank sells US $3 billion worth of debt on the blockchain. $3 billion, again, is a drop in the bucket for the China Construction Bank. They are worth trillions and trillions of dollars. They have assets to that tune. Believe me, many, many trillions of dollars, tens of trillions of yuan, in fact. So $3 billion. I think this is very much a pilot. Again, not a project per se, but this is a litmus test for them. They're going to see how, number one, Fusang can handle this operationally, and number two, how it's perceived by their professional colleagues, by the public at large. I expect to see many more projects like this in the future for not only the China Construction Bank, but other institutions. This definitely sets a precedent. And with a little bit of levity here to mark the occasion, we have Blockfolio on Twitter. They're reminding us that the ERC20 token standard was released 5 years ago today with an Ethereum improvement proposal co-authored by Vitalik Buterin and Findura. So I guess that would have made it November 19th, 2015. 5 years of ERC20 token standards. Awesome. Now, we were talking about big numbers and banks just a moment ago. A few other big numbers here at Altcoin Buzz News tweeting about the following. Zilliqa news. According to a new report by FS Insight, the Zilliqa project is a promising one and could be worth as much as $3.9 billion by 2025. We'll break this down. So currently Zilliqa is no slouch. Its market cap sits somewhere in the $240 million range, but we're still talking about an order of magnitude here of additional growth. In fact, more than that for this $3.9 billion projection to be accurate. Again, we have 5 years according to this one individual, but let's take a look at this and break it down. This article by David. The future looks potentially very bright for Zilliqa as it looks to take advantage of the robust ASEAN economy. So based on this report, the Zilliqa project aims to cover the enticing Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or the ASEAN financial services market. And the researchers here emphasize that the ASEAN market provides about $7.2 billion worth of revenue opportunity for projects like Zilliqa. And specifically, the report states the following, quote, "We estimate that OpFi companies employing DLT in the region could capture 19% share from the digital banking market, which represents a meager 2% of the overall ASEAN financial services market." ASEAN's financial services market is ripe for disruption. And Zilliqa arguably is poised for such disruption, as the ASEAN region has a full 75% of its population either unbanked or underbanked. And this percentage is sobering when realizing that the ASEAN collectively is the world's 5th largest economy. And it's almost paradoxical because despite that rank, despite that position as the 5th largest economy, up to 75% unbanked or underbanked. Unreal. So it's certainly a nice report to see. There are always at least one or two comments below about how Zill is the next big thing and you're a fool if you haven't already invested, if you don't see the future. Right now, it's actually underperforming versus the market, but still up 1% on the day, up just over 2 cents US. So as I mentioned ago, market cap currently about $242.9 million. It would take an order of magnitude of growth and then some to hit that $3.9 billion projection. But the numbers do add up. It's certainly a region that I think is right to be developed, and Zilliqa may just be the project that could do it. Let us know your thoughts about that, guys, in the comments below. And here we're following up from yesterday's news about TomoChain's major deal that was struck in Vietnam regarding diplomas, 1.5 million, in fact, diplomas on the blockchain. Bream here on Twitter. I'm not sure people realize the magnitude of what Tomo has achieved. Here, quoting this, TomoChain's NQA system is the first wide-scale implementation of public blockchain by a central government anywhere in the world. Period. Yes, Vietnam is adopting Tomo to secure the country's entire education sector. It's not a pilot, but a nationwide rollout of blockchain. And arguably, people are starting to get the message because TomoChain is up 9.1% on the day, just about 66.5 pennies US, with a market cap that has now cleared the $50 million hurdle. And if you're not caught up with this news, check out this article. We also covered it in yesterday's video. TomoChain unveils a massive Vietnamese national partnership. We also covered this news the other day regarding sharing and Tencent. So Tencent Cloud sharing partnered to brace the travel industry here on altcoinbuzz.io with this article by Deepika. Tech giant Tencent Cloud and sharing are working together to build an innovative application for the COVID-19 impaired travel industry. And using this app, again, talking about that region, ASEAN regions will be able to safely reopen their borders to tourism. Just in case you missed the original tweet, at Sharing Global, Sharing and Tencent Cloud debut world-class innovative travel app and sharing ID, leveraging cloud and AI technologies. As always, you can read more about it here on the blog. Okay, and to finish off for today, let's get into that topic that I teased at the outset here. We know that Bitcoin is getting the lion's share of the attention lately. That is reflected in its price, that is reflected in its market dominance, of course. But as we all know, eventually, sooner or later, altcoins will follow. There will be an altcoin market boom. And that's kind of once, the capital inflow into Bitcoin, that exuberance and excitement subsides a little bit, and then it flows outward into the secondary, the tertiary projects that we follow here on a daily basis. So here on altcoinbuzz.io, altcoin price season begins soon with this article here by Pratik. The holiday season brings some crypto magic as Bitcoin dominance historically tends to drop this time of year, resulting in altcoins moving up in value. We talked about how typically, again, you can't necessarily look at every historical precedent and extrapolate into the future, but typically November, December, January is a time where things cool down a little bit for Bitcoin, and you do see some movement and some inflow into the altcoin projects. So what you're seeing here is a historical chart of Bitcoin dominance from end of 2017 all the way up to today, November 20th, 2020. And this is expressed in weekly candles. The dominance, as you can see, always reflects a sharp decline really in November. That's when you see lower lows in subsequent weeks, really all the way up until January. So from November up until maybe January and February, actually. This coincides usually with an increase in the price in all major altcoins. So the profits made by investors who are longing Bitcoin, those profits are then used to long major altcoin projects. And we see that alts make much higher relative gains than Bitcoin during this time. In that sense, it is kind of seasonal, it is kind of cyclical. Now, this season, of course, we have already seen a massive increase in not only Bitcoin's price, but yes, in its dominance as well. As noted a moment ago earlier in the video, it's up over 65% currently, and this has really been something that's accelerated these last few weeks. So we ask ourselves, is it just a matter of time till we start seeing Bitcoin dominance making lower lows and the beginning of the next altcoin price season? Possibly. So we feel that once Bitcoin dominance drops from a resistance of perhaps either 66 or on the high end 71, once we see that sharp precipitous drop, we should start seeing alts rising. Best case scenario for altcoins would be for Bitcoin dominance to drop below 54%. As a reminder, we currently sit at a 65.4% Bitcoin dominance, so we still have a ways to go. And arguably, at least in my opinion, I think we're still moving in an upward trajectory for Bitcoin's price and for Bitcoin's dominance. So, it's not an exact science. It still may take several weeks, perhaps several months. I would say likely that once we hit a new all-time high for Bitcoin, we'll begin to restabilize. People will start to find their footing. And the focus at that point should shift from Bitcoin to altcoins. So be ready for it when that pivot point happens. It's always an exciting time. So altcoin elks unite. Let our voices be heard. Brace yourselves and be ready. It's going to be a very exciting altcoin season. And that about wraps it up for this Thursday, everybody. Do be sure you're following us on all the regular social media and keep checking back into our website. As you know, it is altcoinbuzz.io. That's where you'll get all the latest news, updates, and developments. Hey, like, subscribe, share, and hit the bell to receive notifications if you guys enjoyed today's video. Best of luck, of course, if you choose to invest on this Thursday. Invest carefully, guys. Be safe physically. And as always, we do hope to see you again soon in our next video. Take care.